What if the quietest move of the week is the one that flips our season script? What if the phone rings in Allen Park, a plane ticket is booked to the Bay, and a quarterback with deep system equity walks straight into a familiar huddle wearing red and gold? And what if that single transaction, barely a push notification, forces Dan Campbell to redraw the depth chart and rethink how we protect the most valuable asset in Detroit? Ask yourself this: are we watching a routine practice squad shuffle, or the first domino of something bigger? Here's why you can't click away. There's urgency in the building after week 1. There's a rivalry game on deck, a locker room that wants to flush a bad taste fast, and a staff that keeps preaching the same 2 words: communication and fundamentals. Meanwhile, out west, a contender with championship habits just took a hit in the most delicate place a contender can take a hit. If you connect those dots, you start to see the outline of the story before anyone says it out loud. Before we go deeper, if you breathe Honolulu blue, you're in the right place. You're watching Lions News Fan Report? Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, drop a like, and jump into the comments, because this community doesn't just follow the team. We live it. Now let's talk about what's really at stake and why the next 48 hours could reshape the back end of our roster and the way we prepare for Sundays. Context matters. Week 1 didn't match the standard we set last year. The tape shows it: timing just a half beat off in the quick game, protection stressed at the wrong moments, a couple of leverage errors on defense that stretched drives longer than they needed to be. Campbell's message landed like a hammer: fix the basics, overcommunicate, and the ceiling we know is there comes back in a hurry. That's been the identity under him: hard edges, no excuses, next snap mindset. But while the staff drills the fundamentals, the league does what it always does: it churns. Depth gets tested, relationships matter, and contenders hunt for familiarity they can trust overnight. Which brings us to the headline you came for. The conversation around the league right now is simple. San Francisco is exploring bringing C.J. Beathard off Detroit's practice squad and back into Kyle Shanahan's orbit. You know the connections. You know the fit. You know how this league works when a staff wants a player who already speaks their language. Beathard cut his teeth in that building. He knows the verbiage, the footwork landmarks, the progression rules baked into that playbook. When a contender has uncertainty in its quarterback room, even short-term, that's the exact profile they chase. Let's be clear about the mechanics so everyone understands what can and can't happen. Practice squad players can be signed by any other team, but only to that team's 53-man roster, not their practice squad. If the 49ers decide to make that move, it's not a courtesy visit. It's a seat on the plane and a helmet on Sunday as part of their active plan. Detroit isn't powerless here. The counter is straightforward. You can promote the player to your own 53 to block the poach. That's a real decision, not just a paper move, because it cascades through special teams, game day actives, and the flexibility to elevate other positions across the next few weeks. So, what's the impact if it happens? Start at quarterback continuity. Jared Goff is your starter. Hendon Hooker is the developmental heartbeat who's been climbing with reps. And Beathard has been the pro in the room on the scout team. Steady, low maintenance, valuable because he simulates opposing structures cleanly and helps the defense get honest looks. Losing that matters more than fans think. It touches installs, 2-minute rehearsals, Friday red zone periods where you need the picture to look real to build confidence. Swap that out on a short week, and the coaching staff feels it. Next, think protection logic. When you're building the call sheet for a front that loves simulated pressures, you want your backup QB getting live, credible looks all week. The better your scout team operator, the cleaner your answers on Sunday. If Beathard leaves, you're either elevating another arm quicker than planned or revisiting the emergency QB plan tied to your game day 48. It's not panic. This staff doesn't do panic, but it is rebalancing workloads, which always has an opportunity cost somewhere else on the roster. There's also the strategic read on why San Francisco would push now. Contenders don't spend September chasing traits. They chase certainty. They want someone who can call protections correctly on day 3, who understands where the free hitter arrives in their keeper game, who won't turn a flood concept into a turnover because he read the boundary safety's hips wrong. Beathard, for them, represents a shortcut to functional offense, while they get healthy or recalibrate. For Detroit, he represents daily reliability. Those are competing goods, and the CBA's rules turn them into a race. Now, zoom out to the human layer. Dan Campbell has built a culture that players talk about. It's honest with them. If a player has a chance to dress and earn service time on a contender and you can't match the role right now, you at least give it an honest look. That's why these decisions are never only transactional in Allen Park. They're relational. The league notices. Agents notice. And the next time you're hunting a veteran in November, the way you handled September matters. Where does Ben Johnson fit into this conversation? His fingerprints still live in the offensive DNA here. Clarity of pictures for the quarterback. Route combinations that solve for leverage. And an obsession with down-to-down efficiency that lets you be multiple on the money downs. Even with Johnson gone, those principles stayed because good ideas outlast job titles. That's one more reason a seasoned room matters. You want quarterbacks in every chair who can operate within that precision-first ethos. If one of those chairs empties, you either fill it with a vet who's fluent on day one, or you accept the learning curve and insulate it elsewhere on the roster. Okay, so is this fact or speculation? Here's the cleanest way to frame it. The interest and fit are real. The pathway is clean within the rules. The timing tracks with what contenders do when their QB plan takes a ding. But until a contract is signed and the league wire prints it, it's a developing situation. That's the truth. You'll hear terms like monitoring, exploring, dialogue, all the words teams use when the tires are kicked and the plane can be fueled in an hour. That's where this sits. Very plausible, actively discussed, not yet official. So what are Detroit's options if San Francisco pushes? Option 1, protect your ecosystem and sign Beathard to the 53. The cost is a roster spot you had earmarked for a core 4 special teamer or a rotational lineman, plus the 3-week commitment that comes with it. Option 2, let the player take the shot, trust your internal development plan with Hooker as the immediate number 2, and bring in another vet for the practice squad who can spin it well enough to keep your defense honest during the week. Option 3, a hybrid. You hold firm this week, elevate creatively around the rulebook, and reassess when other injuries elsewhere force a different cut. There's also competitive intel at play. Quarterbacks carry language. When a guy who's been sitting in your rooms for months changes buildings, you adjust your protection words, your tags, your dummy calls. That's all normal. But it means even a minor transaction forces a cascade of detail work for offensive staffers and the quarterback leadership group. It's not a crisis. It is a bandwidth tax. Good teams pay it quickly and move on, a final football detail fans sometimes overlook. The scout team ceiling sets your defense's floor during the week. November wins get built on Wednesdays when your back 7 sees a full-speed version of the opponent's staples and learns to trust its rules. Beathard has value there because he's seen a lot of ball, knows how to mimic timing, and doesn't waste reps. Losing that has a ripple, not dramatic, but real, especially when you're polishing communication and urgency after an opener that left the standard unmet. So, where do I land? Personally, if the 49ers put a 53-man seat on the table and real game day intent behind it, I'm pro player enough to tip my cap to C.J. Beathard for taking the shot. He's earned that respect. From a Lions perspective, I protect him only if the staff's internal grades say the marginal value of keeping his voice in the room outweighs the roster squeeze over the next 3 weeks. If they're confident in Hooker's readiness and have a veteran they like ready to slide onto the practice squad, I live with the short-term pain and keep the rest of the roster optimized for Sundays. Either way, this is not a season-defining earthquake. It's a detailed decision that great programs handle cleanly. Handle it cleanly. Keep Goff upright. Let the defense stack communication days, and the scoreboard conversation changes on its own. That's where the real urgency belongs, on execution against the next opponent. Not the headline on the transaction wire. Your turn. Lions family, do you lock down Beathard to block the poach? Or do you roll with the youth movement and keep the roster flexible? Drop your take below, subscribe to Lions News Fan Report, and ride with us all season. The little moves matter, and the way Detroit handles the little moves is exactly why this team is built to last.